My fucking moment is when I left Cash Money. I didn't know what I was gonna do, how it was gonna play out or whatever. I just, because I didn't have no connections. I buried myself in the drum machine most of the time. I didn't know nothing. So it got really, really dark because you have these moments where you're like, man, maybe this is the end of my career. My moment was one of the first songs I got an opportunity to do outside of them was Jeezy, and Then What? And I remember doing that song and just this feeling came over me like, what if this fails? Like, what if this song doesn't work or is just not received well? I remember being in the House of Blues in New Orleans when he came. He came and that was the new song. And he played that song. He did that song at the end of his show. The fucking place went crazy. Like, they went crazy, dude. What's up? This your boy, DJ Mannie Fresh, and I am a culture builder. One of the things I always say, because a lot of people don't get the chance to do, first of all, what happened with Cash Money. Like usually when it's over, it's over. There is no making up. They don't, they don't get to go back and talk to each other or whatever. But one of the things, anybody young or anybody that's doing this, I always say, and I can't stress it enough, don't do homeboy business. Homeboy business will always go bad. And what that means is if you're going to get a manager, get a manager. If you're going to get a lawyer, get a lawyer. Your friend cannot be your manager. He can't be your lawyer. He can't, get people that really do things, because, and if you're with a company that don't want you to have them things, then maybe you shouldn't be with that company. And one of the things that, with us, with Cash Money was we were all young. We made a lot of mistakes, like on both sides. Them, me, and all of us. And we luckily, by the grace of God, we got together and talked about it and ironed it out. All of that could have been prevented by just getting the right people to do the right things. And people always think that, this is my boy or this is my crew. They'll never do that. You don't know that when money starts. When money come, things change, people change. So my biggest thing is, like I said, line up the right people for the right stuff and you'll have a lucrative, cool career. The three keys to me to being successful is definitely surround yourself around good people. Secondly, hire people that do their job. Like don't get people who don't do their job and you think they're going to do their job. So if you need some legal contracts looked over or something like that, don't let your brother do it. Don't let your mama do it. Hire a person that does that. Hire an attorney that, and that's scratching out homeboy business. And I would think, man, third is, I guess, stay humble. Don't forget where you came from, and a lot of times you gotta, I have to remind people of, I definitely can't sign every autograph or shake every hand or whatever, but I do know that I wouldn't be here without the support of people. Like, and if you stay humble and and it goes a long way. Like just by going like, I'm grounded. I know where I am. And I would say one more thing. You got to have people around you that could call you out on your wrongs. You got to have people, not everybody that worked for you scared of you, you're doomed. You're doomed. But you got to have friends and people that work with you that can call you out on, because you're going to have times where you did something wrong. And if your friends can call you out, correct it and let's keep it moving. Nobody don't want to hear about being wrong, but it's shit that all of us are wrong on sometimes. My fucking moment is when I left Cash Money. I didn't know what I was going to do, how it was going to play out or whatever, and I just, because I didn't have no connections, I buried myself in the drum machine most of the time. I didn't know nothing. So it got really, really dark because you have these moments where you're like, man, maybe this is the end of my career. And this is before social media and people just was kind of like, just being people. Like I was being crucified, like on like, why would you leave? Why would you do this? You're not shit without them or they not shit without that kind of stuff. And my moment was one of the first songs I got an opportunity to do outside of them was Jeezy, and Then What? And I remember doing that song and just this feeling came over me like, what if this fails? Like, what if this this song doesn't work or is just not received well. Like, and even that it'll play mind tricks on you. And I remember being in the House of Blues in New Orleans when he came. He came and that was the new song. And he played that song. He did that song at the end of his show. Like, and he was still in, I forget what was the group it was four of them or whatever. But he was in a group at the time that when they were signed to Puffy or whatever. But he did the song like at the end of the show, and the fucking place went crazy. Like they went crazy, dude. Yeah, Jeezy was in Boys in the Hood, and then what? I had did it, and it had been on the radio like maybe for a week or so. It had just came out, so I was like, I don't know if this got traction, if this gonna be it for me or whatever. And he came to New Orleans, House of Blues, and Boys in the Hood performed. But then he was like, hold up, wait, I got one more song I want to do, and I'm gonna do this last one, and we gonna get out. And he did that song, and the fucking crowd went crazy. Like they went nuts over that song. Like, and I remember crying, bro. It brought me to tears because it was that moment that I felt like it was something lifted off of me. Like I had that moment of like, thank you, God. It was Jeezy and then what? And that was one of, that was the start of Jeezy's career. So, that was me. That gave me all the confidence in the world to be like, I'm gonna be all right. What's next for me, Manny, is I'm DJing now more than anything. Jeff is always production. We need production. But the way this works with me is I have to fall in love with it. I have seasons. I'm in love with DJing right now. When I'm finished with that, I'll get back to doing beats. I found that I can't do both of them because there's not room for it. Like, I take DJing that serious. Like, on how I'm gonna do my selections and how I'm, because even in that, I want to beat you. I'm competitive. Like if there's 3 DJs on it, we're gonna talk after I'm finished. It's that way with me. So I feel like that's where I'm at right now. I'm DJ Mannie Fresh, and I get asked all the time to do music, and even with Wayne, like his new album, the Being Myself song that's on there, the one that's me. I'm glad like the way it reaches people. It still let me know like, okay, I'm intact. I'm still here. I just got to get back to the love of it again. Me and Jeff be connected because in New Orleans, we come from the same background. Number one is the love of music. Like, Jeff has been around us for forever. Jeff was on a radio station, when I was younger or whatever. And when he was younger, of course, he still looked hip and cool over there. Y'all can't see him, but our love of music, and putting it together. And I just love Jeff's approach on how he strategizes things and, and I don't have to say it. Jeff already know what's what. If something happens with me that I don't like, I ain't gotta say shit. Jeff is already on it. Like, you know what I'm saying? And if it's something that I'm interested in too, he's already on it. I'm to the point now where I gotta demand it. I gotta demand that you know who I am. Now I just kind of I'm gonna say it for you. If you don't, you know what I'm saying? Because sometimes, like I said, I'm good with being humble, but I'm also good with give people credit that did it. That like if you're gonna keep passing me up, then I'm gonna remind you of who I am and where I came from. And the one of the coolest lines ever, men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie. When we start talking about the numbers, you have to put me there. Me and KL have always, big ups to Mantronix. Like, and if you listen to some of the production of Mannie Fresh, a lot of it is Mantronix. Like, my triples, the way I do snares and all of that kind of stuff. Like, to us, Mantronix was a god. Like, you know what I'm saying? And we never even met him young growing up. We just made this, like, whoever Mantronix is, he is the genius of all genius. And the dude was way ahead of his time. He was, so I remember KL actually got to meet Mantronix, but let me tell you what I was amped on. For my birthday, Red Bull was like, you can have whoever you want and we'll make it, like your wish list come through. And so I had Mantronix, I had Trouble Funk, and I don't know. I think it was somebody else. But long story short, they was like, Mantronix is coming. And I'm like, holy shit. And it wind up that I think he was living in London or something at the time or whatever, and he couldn't get his paperwork right to come over. And I was like, shit. You know what I'm saying? But since then, just through social media, we always talk. You know what I'm saying? And I always, say big ups to him, and and he always gives me back big ups as well. Like in things like, thank you for the shout out for always keeping, that name out there. And I'm like, bro, it ain't gonna never go nowhere with me and KLC. But to have Trouble Funk, who I said is a go-go band that we grew up on, and what was crazy about that birthday party that year, everybody that was a rapper, kind of like in our era, from No Limit to Cash Money, showed up for that party just to pay homage to, because, they all kind of was like, Mantronix gonna be here. And I was like, I'm sorry, y'all. He ain't make it. But we still jammed to Trouble Funk. My man Mantronix had a huge influence on me as a producer, on my production, on how I do it, and my dude KLC. And KLC is the producer of most of the No Limit hits that you hear. He was the mastermind behind a lot of those songs that was crafted, his way or whatever. But both of us came up under Mantronix. Something that's crazy, a super memorable studio moment is Still Fly. When I was making Still Fly, nobody liked the song. I mean, like, it was like they had a campaign on destroying this song. Like, Baby was like, he in there singing some shit about everything in his mama name. We don't know what the fuck he doing. And then they would send somebody else in the room and be like, can you move to another track? Can you please stop doing this stupid ass song or whatever? I just remember it was met with so much, like, this is not the one. And it was overwhelming, like, how many people did not like Still Fly. And I was like, bro, I know what I'm doing. It was one of them. We damn near went to blows behind that song. Like, because everybody was just like, what you're saying on the hook is the dumbest shit in the world. And I was like, what I'm saying on the hook of this song is the way everybody in America lives. And that's why it's going to hit. I was like, the reason why this is going to hit, because it's really everything that happens every day. And I think it was because Cash Money was so all about, we got everything. It's all about the money. It's all about, and this song kind of downplayed that. It was just like, nah, this is really just, quarter tank of gas in my new E-Class, got everything in my mama name. And it was like, that just don't fit the big timers or whatever. And I'm like, dude, this one gonna go. So I think that right there was memorable. Like I said, we fought like a long time, like maybe 2 or 3 days about Still Fly. You know what I'm saying? And when the song came out, still to the day, and this is the interview, so none of y'all apologize to me yet, bastards. Another memorable moment producing another, song that won't die for nothing in the world, Back That Azz Up. Like, when we was doing that song, me and Juvenile was in competition. And what I mean by competition, his raps couldn't be bigger than my song. It couldn't be bigger than the beat. So we changed that song like maybe 3 or 4 times. Like, and it was done in kind of like in secret. And what I mean is he would do his raps, and I would be like, damn, his rap's killing the beat. So I would go back later on and change the beat. And when I left the studio, he would come back and change the raps. He would go, he's like, nah, I ain't do that right. And then I come back and it's a completely different song. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what is he, So I was like, I got to change the beat again. He changed it to the vocals that you hear now, right? And I was just like, fuck, he is whipping my ass on this song. I'm like, so it was just a straight beat, right? It started out with where he rapped at, and I was like, all right, I'm going to do some shit like what a DJ would do. I put the intro on it. That was another one where it was kind of met with, why does it have this long fucking intro before it gets down to the... And I was like, bro, the intro is for cool-ass dudes at wedding receptions and shit like that, and people that's getting their drinks or whatever so they could get set up, and explaining that to somebody that rap, of course, they don't get it. And I'm like, bro, there's a reason for an intro. And I'm like, I know this is going to be a big song. Juvie was like, I don't want to be known as a dude that make booty shaking ass music. That's not what I do. I rap. And so that was 1, 2 that we went to, and I was like, bro, this is going to be your biggest song. And he was just like, I don't see how you see that or whatever. And he was on, this ain't going to even be a single. And I'm like, oh yeah, this going to be a single. Like so one of the, like I said, what was memorable, the arguments and stuff that we had behind that song. Like, and when it came out, he didn't know that I changed the string line to it, and I even extended the intro a little bit longer. So he heard it for the first time the new way when it came out. Of course, he was angry as shit, but when the song morphed into what it did, he had to take all of that back. Let me tell you what's special about Bling Bling. It's one of them things where the Wayne had actually said Bling in another song previously, probably 2 years before Bling Bling was even, before I even wrote the hook to it. But Wayne used the line in something, and I knew something, it was something special about Bling. Like, I was just like, damn, that word is just like, it's untouched. Nobody never said that, nobody done that. So I just remember when it, I forget what song it was or whatever, but he said the line bling and something, and I was just like, something about that right there, the way that part of the song carried. And this was, like I said, maybe 2 years prior to even doing Bling Bling. And I just kind of, the way Bling Bling even came to, I actually really dreamed this shit. Like, when you have, like, sometimes you'll have something in your head that it keeps going on and on and on, and you got to get up and you got to record it. I made the hookup in my head, literally, and I was just like, I got to get up and record this. So I got up and I recorded it, and when they came to the studio, all of them heard just the hook. I didn't have, I didn't do the raps or nothing yet. I just had the hook to it. And it was just like, bro, this shit right here. Like, not that was one of the songs that everybody agreed that this is going to be a big song. It's going to be a big, big song. And the other part of it was supposed to be a big timer song. Because we were the blinged out dudes. But we kind of knew that we needed to give it to BG because his album was dark, and he didn't have songs that kind of was anywhere close to that. So we wind up giving that song to him. And like you said, the rest of it is history. The chemistry with me and Juvenile, especially on 400 Degrees, what made that a good album was two people being competitive. Like, the producer and the rapper. Just being competitive on wanting to win. And that made that album so good. Like, if you listen to some of 400 Degrees, Juvenile didn't know how to count bars yet, and I went wherever he went. I was like, hey, if it ends on 16 and a half, so be it. We're going to figure out a way to make the hook. Like, so some of them was, like the count of them was off, but it was so good that I was like, I'm not going to mess with him and tell him, chop this and take this out. I'm like, we'll just go around it and figure it out. But it was really us being competitive, me against him, him against me. And I think that's what made it a great album. The early Cash Money sessions was definitely a good time. That's why those songs resonate with people like that. Like, it was never pressure. It was never ever like, somebody going, I got to make a hit. And I've always kept that word out of, us recording. That was, you could not say that. You could not say, I need a hit. Because to me, there's no such thing as a hit. We could do good music and we could hope that, because after you finish that, you got to put it in somebody else's hands, then somebody else's hands. So it's so many things that make a record a hit record, but I'm like, hey, let's just concentrate on making good music. And our formula was just have a good time and enjoy the music. Like, most people will tell you if they sat in a Cash Money session, it was like a house party. It was literally like, because we did the homework on the song by just watching what people were doing around. Nothing really ever bothered me. We could have had 30 people in the studio, but if it was a hot song, it turned into, now you got 30 people making drinks, smoking weed, doing all kind of stuff. And you like, okay, this song is proven. This song is a hit. Because you could tell by just the response of what's around. So a lot of our sessions were equivalent to a house party. A really, really special, memorable moment for me was putting together Go DJ for Lil Wayne. Like that was super kind of weird because I had the thought of how we was gonna do the song, and the thought process of it was we was gonna send all of these radio DJs like a camcorder and let them video themselves or whatever on the air or whatever they was doing, and they just send them back to us, and we was gonna edit that in the video. right? Because we had already done the hook. We thought about the hook, but Wayne never rapped on the song, right? So I was like, okay, but if this one is going to be a single, let's do something different so we could catch all of the DJs. Right. So I was like, hey, send them all camcorders and let's see what they send back and then we'll edit it. So they start getting some of this stuff back or whatever. And Wayne is about to put the song down, you know? So I was like, okay, bro, like we got the hook. Now you gotta, and he starts rapping and he ain't say a fucking thing about a DJ. He didn't say nothing about a DJ on Go DJ. If you know, and we was like, well, bro, what, you know, but by halfway the first verse, I was like, but it's so cold. Fuck, I'm not gonna tell him nothing. I'm like, I ain't telling them, you know, I'm like, you didn't say nothing about, but everybody was like, bro, that shit is, you know, and this was Wayne's first Carter, and this was him stepping up, going, I want to be looked at as a, you know, as a lyricist now. But I was like, but you didn't say nothing about DJs. Like, so that right there was kind of, you know, when I say that to people, they actually realize they're like, damn, he didn't say nothing about no DJs. His lyrics has nothing to do with the DJ. But it was just what he was saying was so nice. I was like, you know what? We leaving it alone. Let it fly. Man, it's just so much stuff that kind of happened with us. Like, you know, I think like some of the wildest stuff was like we kind of created this whole lobby thing or whatever, you know, and we used to call ourselves the Walk the Carpet Thugs. And that meant like, you know, after the concert, we would always be in the lobby of hotels or whatever, waiting for whatever overflow it was. And every night after the show, we'll be like, the Walk the Carpet Thugs gonna be downstairs waiting for everything. And I just think like, I mean, we survived it. That's probably the craziest. Because you know, young, you think you're invincible and nothing can't happen to you. And I think we've had a lot of like low down, throw down run-ins with fans, and you know, some stuff that I'm gonna leave it right there. You got to use some of your imagination. This is one of our crazy stories while we was on tour. We was actually checking in a hotel. We were checking in, and it was two people behind us while we was waiting to get our rooms, a guy and a girl, and it was a couple. And the guy actually told us that his girl loves us so much that she could go with us. And we was like, well, what do you mean by go with us? He was like, I'm good with just like letting her go with y'all wherever y'all going. So we was just like, hey, is this like your girl, or are you just making this up? And he was like, nah, we've been together for like 6 years. But because she's a super fan and she loves y'all that much, she can go. And so you're saying your girl can get on this bus and go with us? And he was like, yeah, she could go. And she actually got on the bus. And then she was just like, oh yeah, I'm good with it. I'll stay with y'all. And he was like, it's all right, dude. It's cool. I'll let her go with y'all. And we was like, bro, this like your girl? He was like, yeah, this my girl. We've been together for like 6 or 7 years. They didn't even check in the room. I think he went left. She hung out with us, then got on a tour bus, and she was with us for like a week before she decided to go back home. And she was there for like maybe a week, and it was just like, this is crazy. You know what I'm saying? Honestly, bro, I'm the dude who all throughout this tour, even that, I went to my room. Like, you know what I'm saying? I've never been the person who like, I'm just hanging out or whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? But I've seen a lot of crazy things happen with fans and their interactions on how they was towards the hot boys, you know, grown women, when these were young, you know, teenage boys or whatever, that would just hang out and wait for these dudes. And, you know, it's just like, you know, you could go to jail for that, ma'am. You're tampering with a young boy. But it always happened on our tour because we, you know, Wayne and them were teenagers when we first started this, but the fans were kind of grown, and that would happen often. One of my memorable moments that I'll never forget was linking up with DMX. We was going to start the Rough Riders Cash Money tour. We met DMX in the back alley of a club. And he was telling us about, hey man, I love y'all music, and we gon' da 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 da, and we gon' do these dates, and we gon' blah blah blah, you know. And he pulls out, you know, some drugs, and he's just like, hey, y'all get down. It was like, nah, bro, we'll. And as he having this conversation with us, you know what I'm saying? He's doing his thing. Like, he's just like, you know how dudes' voice, hey, yo, man, hey, we gonna do this concert or what? And he keeps trying to pass this pipe to us. We like, nah, bro, we don't fuck around. You know what I'm saying? And it was probably the most craziest, eeriest thing that happened, but that was DMX. You know what I'm saying? And also when we started that tour, I remember he found the stray dog. he found the stray dog somewhere, and he came in a hotel lobby with this dog, and the dog was just running crazy in like a Renaissance or something, and he had like one shoe on. Like, we was like, where the fuck did he come from? Like, you know, and he was chasing this dog the whole time through the lobby of this hotel, and he brung that dog with him, like, you know, for about 2 or 3 shows. So I was like, this man really love animals. I'm like, he just found the stray dog somewhere and let him loose and terrorized the whole, like the whole hotel while this crazy ass dog was running around and he chasing him. So, you know, I would think some of the craziest stuff was the Rough Riders Cash Money tour. A memorable moment with me would probably be super, super young, because I DJ'd in New Orleans for forever. When NWA would come to town, I would always DJ those, you know, if it was at a auditorium in New Orleans, you know, that was big for me to, you know, LL Cool J, to meet him young, like, you know, and to actually grow into, you know, that person knowing you. That's what's so crazy about it. You know, meeting Run DMC was incredible for me. Like, I was fanned out. Like, you know, and for somebody of their caliber to know your name, you know, that right there, that's the ultimate, you know, crazy cool thing or whatever. And you saying like, man, I love y'all music, and I love, and you know, and they and going, I love your music as well. And I'm like, damn, you know me? That right there. So I would say my most memorable would be Run DMC. I'm a diehard Run DMC fan. Mantronix, me and KLC, definitely both of us Mantronix fans. Trouble Funk, the band that, you know, that does go-go from DC. New Orleans has always been a fan of go-go music. Meeting Trouble Funk and just chopping it up with them, you know, and telling them like their influence on how our music is. And, you know, and sometimes people don't even think that you connect that way with them. But I got artists on artists like that, that I would say I've had crazy encounters and just been fanned out where I had to walk out and be like, man, this shit is crazy. I just met, you know what I'm saying? The first time I met Run DMC, it was me and Wayne. They had a tribute for something for BMI, for publishing or whatever, and it was in Vegas. And me and Wayne actually got to perform one of Run DMC songs. So while they was doing the tribute for them, we had to learn, I think, on Rockbox, like, you know, and we got to do the song or whatever. And it was important to Run them that they wanted artists that actually knew the songs and that grew up on it. They didn't have to learn the songs. And we was like, hell yeah, we know the song. Start the song, we good. And we didn't know we was gonna actually meet them. We just thought we was just doing this tribute, and we had on our Adidas sweatsuits, shell toes, all of that, you know. And when we got to meet them, we both fanned out. We was both like, this is Run DMC, dude. This moment right here gonna go down in history. Like, you, and because all of us kind of grew up on, that's to us, that's the birth of hip hop. You know, to somebody, I know it's a lot of music that's before that, but that was the songs and the super group to us that made us want to do records and made us want to be hip hop heads. So fast forward, Run DMC was doing their first concert coming back together, right? After Jam Master Jay passed. And it was in Austin. And I found out about the concert. And I went to Austin. I was like, there's no way I'm not missing this. So I don't know how I'm gonna get tickets, none of that. But I'm just like, I'm going to this concert, this Run DMC. And it was in a park in Austin. So I wind up getting in the park. Don't even know how. I think my dude Jeff hooked me up with something so I could get in the park, some tickets or whatever. And I wind up getting in the park. So I'm just kind of making my way towards where they at, like, you know, like there's a gate and all of that and blah, blah, blah. And DMC see me. And he's just like, Manny, come here, man. Come over here. And I was like, oh, shit. You know, and that was my real moment of, I'm like, shit, DMC just called me. Like, you know what I'm saying? They're like, dude, just hang out with us. Just, you know, just hang over here, whatever. And I'm just like, bro, I'm like, I found out about this like last minute that y'all was doing y'all first show again. And Run was like, so you stopped what you was doing and came? I was like, hell yeah. You know, and I wind up hanging out with them that whole day. And, you know, that's like, I was calling my dad going, fuck, I'm with Run DMC right now, dude. This is incredible. And the fact that they knew some of my songs and stuff that I was doing. So that's what made it super, super incredible for me. I remember Run saying, he was like, "Well, you do all of the albums," and I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "But you do every song?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do every song." And he was like, "Bro, that's kind of incredible." And he was like, "And that's chemistry." He was like, "What made Run DMC so good that he was like, Jay was our guy. He picked the songs, he made most of the beats and everything." And he was like, "And when you have that, you have chemistry." And and that kind of stuck with me on longevity or whatever, because when somebody that great is kind of giving you that solid advice, and he was just like, he broke down some songs as well. He's like, "Man, I need a hot girl." He was like, "Back that ass up, bro. That's a big one right there." And I'm just like, shit. Run knows these songs. Like, that's incredible. Yeah, some of the things that influenced me is I mean, growing up, me and my dad always wrenched on cars. Like, so I'm hands on with cars. Like, I find an old Chevy and I'm gonna do my car from the floor up. Like, because that's relaxing to me. I know a lot of people got a whole bunch of hobbies. I know two things: cars and music, and that's where I stay. Some of my favorite cars are 69 Camaro, 63, 65, and a 67 Corvette. I have a 67 GTO, old Acura Legend. Somebody just put that on one of the videos or whatever. Like, I guess they was talking about a story with me and Juvenile, and Juvie said, this was way, way back. He said, "Man, he picked me up in a white Acura Legend." And this was before he was signed to Cash Money. And I was like, "I still got that car." And he was like, "You still got the car?" Me growing up in New Orleans, in my area, the 7th Ward, I would describe my neighborhood like gumbo. Like if with gumbo, there's so many ingredients that make a good gumbo. My neighborhood was that. It was a whole bunch of ingredients, like from people that played jazz, just somebody that played drums, or somebody that played guitars or whatever, or the influence with my dad. My dad played a lot of instruments. My dad was a street DJ, so just growing up around that developed my sound. And I always say this, like, my Christmas gifts and birthday gifts was never ever toys. It was always some instrument shit. Like, and I used to be angry. Like, I'm like, another turntable. But my dad knew something that I didn't know, and when I clicked into it and started messing with it, I was like, this is it. And even with me, one of my memorable super moments was Chic, Good Times. That song. My dad backspinning that song, it changed my life. Like, I was like, damn, how is he doing that? How is he making the record repeating and doing the little good, 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 good? After seeing that, I was like, oh, I'm going to practice this. I'm gonna get this. And around that time when my dad was doing that, just to backspin a little bit, Run DMC is like that, and Sucker MCs came out. And I remember hearing them drums and the way that sounded. I was like, this is my sound. This is where I need to be. And just the 7th Ward was full of that. Like, you had music from everywhere, every corner, every angle, and somebody that, provided you a stage to do different things. So that's what my neighborhood was like. Believe it or not, that light bulb moment for me was I used to have to take my dad's equipment to some of his gigs, as I got older or whatever. And then, I would have to pick his stuff up late. This was around my high school. I would say probably 10th grade, but I knew how to drive from stealing my mom's car. So my dad was like, okay, if you're not how to drive, we're going to put you to work. Like, my dad DJ'd every day at whatever, like somewhere at a hole in a wall bar or some shit, like just different ones all over the city. So like maybe around 9 p.m., I would have to take his DJ van. Now they call them raper vans. This big white van he had, and I had to go set up his equipment. And I had to go back whenever he was done to pick up his equipment. You know what I'm saying? But I came back one time early. I came back like to one of his gigs early, and they actually let me sit in. Even though I was underage, they let me sit in. And I actually saw what the DJ do. And, and that changed my life. Like with my dad, and the way I like to define what a DJ does is you take people away from their problems when they with you. If you're a good DJ, you take them away from everything that's going on in life for that moment that they with you. And, and if you hold that crowd like that, I was like, this is what I want to do. And, and my dad was great at that. He was great at how he talked to you, how he played the songs, the selection that he picked. And that changed my whole perspective on, I was like, damn, you holding these people captive right now. And nobody cares about what's going on. Like, and it's low income areas. And I'm like, for this moment right now, nobody don't give a shit that they poor or something going on, racism or none of that. Music held all of that for whatever amount of time you was with the DJ. So and that right there had me mesmerized. So I would say my turning point was sometime young, before I even got, my skills up or whatever. Just seeing my dad do that I knew I was going to be somewhere in that mix. Yeah, some of the things that influenced me is, I mean, growing up, me and my dad always wrenched on cars. Like, so I'm hands on with cars. Like, I find an old Chevy and I'm gonna do my car from the floor up. Like, because that's relaxing to me. I know a lot of people got a whole bunch of hobbies. I know two things: cars and music, and that's where I stay. Some of my favorite cars are 69 Camaro, 63, 65, and a 67 Corvette. I have a 67 GTO, old Acura Legend. Somebody just put that on one of the videos or whatever. Like, I guess they was talking about a story with me and Juvenile, and Juvie said, this was way, way back. He said, Mannie picked me up in a white Acura Legend, and this was before he was signed to Cash Money. And I was like, I still got that car. And he was like, you still got the car? And, and they posted the car or whatever on Instagram or whatever. I got definitely Porsches. I got a 356 Porsche. I got a 993 Porsche, a couple of GT3s. Like, I just like cars, bro. This could go on and on. So what made Ultimate Breaks and Beats special, super extremely special, was that was like candy for DJs. That was just like getting a gift from the gods to, because a lot of the blueprint came from those breaks and those beats. The inspiration came from that. And, in my era, everything was on wax. And what was so sweet about some of them, you had to go crate digging for them. Some of them it might have been one badass break on it, but you didn't mind paying for it. The other four of them might have been like, nah, I can't do nothing with that. But the one that was incredible, like that changed the whole spectrum of the party, because you had something that nobody had yet, or they didn't know where it came from or what to do. And what really, really made it a tool for me early on DJing and on the club scene in New Orleans, I would bring my sampler to the club. I would bring my SP12, and I would use loops from off of that and just put music on top of it. And that morphed into me producing. I started with break beats and just, putting bass lines on. So that kind of started, that break beat album started my production off, by going like, hey, I could take a loop off of this, put some music on it, and I can try it out in the club. The crazy thing about bounce music is that a lot of people didn't know how many songs I did, and and how many, because that was early on Mannie Fresh. Nobody really got, production credits or whatever. So even with me and some of my friends early on, KLC, my boy DJ WAP, we actually flipped Trigger Man over the instrumental and start running the instrumental and using it as a break for MCs to rap off of. And then it kind of morphed into bounce music. Because if you was at a block party and you had a good MC, you just let him do his thing or whatever. And one of the cool things about New Orleans is we definitely love 808 breaks. And, you find us an 808 break, we going crazy. And just there's two important elements of bounce music: Brown Beat, Cameron Paul, and Trigger Man, drag rap, the Showboys. And I think Cameron Paul is from London or something or whatever. And the Showboys are from New York. And merging them two together and put some hand claps, you're going to have some booty shaking going on. But most of the early on bounce songs were Mannie Fresh productions. We don't even know who Roland is, but whoever Roland is, bro, the Roland 808 is like, it's the soundtrack to Down South. There's not too many songs, like that don't have a Roland 808, something in it. And the significance of hip hop, is the to me, the dopest drum machine ever made. Like, there's nothing that sounds like an 808. And to find out that the 808 was a mistake, like it was bad chips, Like that's what made the, like I don't know if you knew that or whatever, but the 808 was actually a mistake. Like the drum machine was some defective chips or whatever, and that's what made the sounds. And when they ran out of the chips, they couldn't produce the 808 again. So it was built on like some defective chips. Like, and it's just but that's what made the boom, like that's the closest they could have got to a kick. But look at what the 808 boom did to hip hop. Because any of the sounds don't sound nothing like what they name. A real snare does not sound like that. A real kick drum does not sound like that. A real cowbell does not sound close to that. But the uniqueness of it, it's unmatched. If you take Marvin Gaye songs or whatever, like any song that had an 808 in it early on, we didn't even know why we liked it, but we really loved those sounds. It's one of them machines. It's almost like you got to be a DJ to because there's a fine tune button on it, but you got to mess with it a little bit while it's playing because it's a little bit off. Like, you'll never be able to, it never locked into any other machine. Like it was never like married to nothing perfect. It was almost like you had to match tempos and do it damn near like a DJ, but nobody mind doing all of that to make it work. What's up? This is DJ Mannie Fresh, and you're watching 24/7 HH. You heard me?